I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zeiss Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, friends.
Welcome back to Bias Reactions, Lost Omens, Gods, and Magic.
That's right.
This is going to be our third part, where we resume our biased reaction to the deities with Gruhasta.
That's right. So, Gruhasta is the Vudrani god of that book he wrote, as well as enlightenment, but, not exactly the same amount of enlightenment as Irori, who is his uncle, and also, of course, Abs. Well, not really. But Gruhasta just shows that in Irori's family, apparently, becoming a god runs in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see he's holding that book he wrote that he is the god of. And,
so his form of enlightenment is attained through knowledge that's guided by wisdom and empathy. And his priests are more focused on educating others, whereas Irori is more about the whole self-perfection business.
Irori even specifically says you shouldn't, tell everyone else what to do. In enlightenment, you have to find your own. So yeah, Gruhasta wants you to work towards collective transcendence, expose and root out malicious lies, challenge oppression through education, and protect knowledge to seek truth, but does not want you to deny a sincere student education, destroy knowledge, disrespect the traditions of those around you, or willfully spread ignorance or wrong information. And Gruhasta's avatar can hit you with a punch or arrow of enlightenment.
That's not a particularly pleasant form of enlightenment.
Well, you're gonna learn if you get shot by arrows of enlightenment enough times.
Yep. How about someone who might shock you with thunder instead? Hey Fang. With lightning instead. Hey Fang, Duke
of Thunder. Well, Hey Fang is the Tengu god of storms. That the way that Tengu feel about Hey Fang is not always the same. Just sometimes it's yeah, he he's a Tengu, and it's good that there's a Tengu up there, but it's Hey Fang, because he's very unpredictable and impulsive and inveterate drunk, and is known for just doing all sorts of things that cause the rest of the gods around him to regard him as sometimes being troublesome, and mortals to give him a wary respect, because you never know what he's gonna do. Yeah, it's a pretty amusing and interestingly different deity. He wants you to follow your passions, make token attempts to apologize to those you have wronged, respect the power of the sea and the sky, and encourage flashy entertainment, but not fake friendship with those you despise, disrespect Hey Fang or Hey Fang's estranged wife, Lady Jingxi, or ignore an affront to you or Hey Fang. His avatar has a drunken sword and a storm surge as a ranged attack.
And then, continuing on, we have Kazutal, Mother Jaguar.
That's right. Kazutal is a, mostly Arcadian deity, but, there's some people who worship Kazutal in other areas as well.
Her edicts are to defend your people, provide for those who need you, oppose those who unjustly lord power over others, and demonstrate devotion to things you love. And anathema are to own a slave, force a creature to act against its will, refuse to give aid to an ally, or enforce an unjust law.
Yep, she definitely doesn't like unjust laws, and she attacks you with a machete. And so does her avatar. Ranged attack is Jaguar Pounce, where she throws that jaguar around her neck at you.
So she has a focus on safety, liberty, and community.
Yep. And that's what sort of makes her neutral good, is there's the liberty aspect, but also the community aspect, and so it's going off in both directions.
Next up, we have Kyrgyz, the strongman. He is very focused on competition. His edicts are to compete to your full potential, claim victory, or accept defeat with grace. Seek always to better yourself, encourage others to strive toward their own potential for greatness. But he will be greatly displeased if you cheat in an honorable contest, dishonor those who have lost or failed, including defeated or slain enemies, or engage in reckless or needless destruction or bloodshed. So yeah, like I said, contests. Really big deal.
Big deal. Attack with lashing chain or throwing a javelin. And Kyrgyz is another ascended mortal who was just a really good athlete who started out as a farm boy and sacrificed a lot and rose to godhood. And they're like, it's not mentioned here, but they're like some mortals who had theories that Kyrgyz may be like the child of Caden Kalian and Desna, but his timing is completely it doesn't work.
So that's
one reason it's not mentioned in here, is because of the fact that the timing of when he ascended is too early for that to have been the case.
That's so patron deity of the Ruby Phoenix tournament.
I mean, Kyrgyz would enjoy the Ruby Phoenix tournament.
For sure.
But I would say that Haojin is
really the patron of the and she's like, I mean, she's not
a goddess.
She's not quite a goddess, but she's like really, really powerful.
That's right. Speaking of more goddesses, it's Milani the Everbloom.
Yes. Milani is really one of the deities that's most focused on the battle against oppression. If you thought that Desnans were going to fight for freedom, well, Milani or Cadenites, you haven't met Milani. So Milani's edicts are to confront oppression in all its forms, defend the common folk, and overcome despair to seize victory. Anathema, to abandon those in need, enslave or oppress others, harm the innocent through direct or inadvertent action. She is a chaotic good deity. Her church is generally organized into small independent cells of freedom fighters who you'll find in places where people are being oppressed.
That's right. And her avatar will beat you up with a morning star. Because why not?
Legit. How about Nivi Rambodazzle, the Gray Polychrome?
Well, Nivi Rambodazzle is the goddess of gamers and gambling.
Legit. And gnomes, too.
Well, at the very least, she's not like the goddess of all gnomes, but
she's
a gnome deity who is also especially worshipped by deep gnomes who live underground because of the fact that she found a solution to the bleaching that was taken up by the deep gnomes as well. And it's unclear whether or not she could directly protect gnomes who worship her from the bleaching, other than like the deep gnome solution that deep gnomes used, but the gambling and risky behaviors that she preaches are certainly helpful against the bleaching.
For sure. Speaking of which, her edicts are to take risks and savor the consequences, whether good or ill. Use stealth or guile over violence when dealing with the fallout of your risk-taking. Learn the rules and strategies of games of chance played wherever you travel. Anathema, or to break the established rules or terms of a wager, or to use violence to avoid the consequences of a wager.
I lost this game. Rawr! Table flip. Lose your powers.
Yep. Nivi says no table flipping.
She'll attack you with her returning light hammer, which is listed only for melee, but I mean it's returning. So presumably, I guess you should be able to throw it, but
true.
It doesn't say range. I guess no, it's thrown 40 feet. That's why.
Yes, yeah, it's right. It says they're thrown 40 feet.
It doesn't list a ranged strike for it,
Mhm.
but presumably it's got the same accuracy because all Avatar attacks do, and that's why it didn't have to.
And next up, we have one of the deities that one of the divine figures that changed the most, going into second edition, Nocticula, the Redeemer Queen.
That's right.
She was a succubus demon lord who changed her ways, and her edicts are to create art true to yourself, protect marginalized artists, and punish those who take advantage of offered trust and shelter. And her anathema to deny shelter to the desperate, destroy harmless art that you dislike, or finish a work of art during daylight hours.
That's right. That means you can destroy harmless art that you like.
Technically, yes.
Yes. Of course, she's chaotic and may not like it if you try to do something that's technically correct.
Technically allowed based on that list, but not otherwise allowed.
That's right. And her avatar is going to give you an attack with a tail stinger and a ranged attack with a magnanimous smile.
Okay, that's a funny ranged attack.
And she definitely gained like a color/art upgrade when she became less evil.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good. Savannah the Seventh Veil. This is one of the depictions of Savannah, but who knows what Savannah actually looks like, or if the concept of actually looking like any one particular thing even applies to Savannah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I doubt it.
Areas of concern, illusions, mysteries, reflections, and secrets. Savannah is Savannah and edicts to show the beauty in illusions, pursue the nature of truth, and respect the need for secrets. Anathema, to use illusions and shadows to harm another creature, or to reveal a secret you have sworn to keep. So not only is Savannah, what does Savannah actually look like? Is that even a reasonable question, I think? But no one really knows what Savannah's goals are either.
That's true.
She is extremely secretive, and she can assist those who desire to keep their own secrets as well. And her alignment is as fitting for who knows really what's going on with her. She is a true neutral deity who accepts lawful neutral, neutral good, neutral evil, and chaotic neutral followers.
That's right. And there's lots of people who say that, like, her different veils hide, like, different stuff even among different ancestries, such as gnomes and Anadi. Her avatar is her bladed scarf, is her melee attack, and then she can do an illusory assault as a ranged attack.
Mm-hmm. I guess that doesn't trigger the anathema of using illusions or shadows to harm another creature.
That's right.
Well, I imagine that's more of like... I imagine that'd be more like using like illusions to set up a trap where someone couldn't like bumble into it or whatever.
I think it would be using an illusion spell to harm them, and her avatar's illusory assault is part of a transmutation spell, technically.
Aha!
Doesn't have the illusion trait, it's just called illusory assault.
That is true. Next up we have this spread. I really like the composition of this, showing the siblings Shizuru and Tsukio.
They're not siblings.
Not siblings. Definitely not siblings. Apologies. Showing Shizuru and Tsukio facing toward each other.
Yes, you see, like, Tsukio is, like, running or moving, like, almost towards Shizuru, and Shizuru's arms are, like, outstretched because of the myths of Shizuru and Tsukio
being lovers, not siblings. Apologies.
Yes, that's right.
Definitely not siblings.
You played a paladin of Shizuru
I
and
know.
a cleric of Tsukio.
I know. It just it just came out wrong. I apologize.
That's fine.
So here we have both of them. Shizuru, areas of concern, ancestors, honor, the sun, and swordplay. The Empress of Heaven, Definitely somebody who has quite a few paladins. She is her edicts to practice with a weapon every day, honor your ancestors, protect nature and society from corruption and destruction. Anathema to abandon a companion in need, dishonor yourself, parlay with truth bakers, or to separate lovers.
That's right. Shizuru and Tsukio have like a kind of Osiris Isis story esque, where like they were in love, and then the jealous third god who would be set with Osiris and Isis, but in this case is Fumiyoshi, kills Tsukio, and then Tsukio comes back different than
the aid
than
of
he was
Kijong,
before.
god of medicine.
That's
yes.
right. I guess if Shizuru was like completely Isis, she'd be the one to bring him back, but in this case, Kijong does it, and there became a rift between them, and they are always chasing and trying after each other, but they can only meet on an eclipse to embrace.
And there's there's also some conversation here about the relations between Shizuru and Iomide and how those religions are practiced. And
what I really want to know is what's the deal between Shizuru and Sarenrae, because they kind of both have their own feelings about which one of them is the sun deity / is the sun that are mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Well, that's not talked about on this particular page.
Yeah, it would be interesting. But she will slash you with a katana or shoot a sunbolt arrow.
Yes, less dismemberment. But is an appropriate comment. It is, so Shizuru is generally more focused, would be less likely to rush into battle than Iomide. So we have Tsukio.
That's right.
Prince of the Moon. So his areas of concern are Jade, the Moon, and Spirits. Edicts to provide aid and counsel without judgment to those who seek help, to help the dead find their rest, and to amplify or help speak for the powerless and demonized. His anathema are to harm another out of envy, force aid on those who don't want it, or inflict harmful mental effects on others as punishment. So, Tsukio's has a lot of followers among those who find themselves ostracized, shunned, or otherwise harmed in society for their differences, particularly people who have mental illnesses or disabilities.
Yep.
So a lot of his clergy take up roles as wandering counselors who offer wisdom, guidance, and therapy to those who want it.
His avatar is going to attack you with a long spear or make a ranged attack with moonbeams. Moonbeams. Those are the 20 secondary deities in Lost Omens Gods of Magic, but there's a bunch more that is in there. I mean, that's like a little over half the book with the 20 primary and 20 secondary deities.
So the section on demigods and other divinities talks about, just in general, how does the worship of demigods work? How do they relate to the more powerful deities? Where do they live? Why, what sort of draws followers to them as opposed to some of the more powerful deities, and where can some of their followers be found?
That's right. And then we move on into sections specifically about the different kinds of demigods, starting with the archdevils and queens of the night,
the most powerful denizens of hell.
That's right. And given that there's only a certain number of archdevils, they fit all of them into this spread with short sections, because there's 8, plus on the 9th hell you've got Asmodeus, who's not just an archdevil, but full-on deity, plus the top 4 queens of the night that always get their time in the sun.
Yes.
There's Balzabul, who is basically kind of protested against where he was in hell because he thought he was the best, and is now a swarm of flies in Cocytus. There's Barbados, who is kind of not even a devil, and is like the newest Archduke, who rules over the first layer of hell, Avernus. There's Belial, who rules hell's fourth layer, Phlegethon, and is basically extremely malleable. There's Dispater, who rules over Dis, the infernal city in the second layer of hell, who is very scheming and has, actually, not completely terrible relationships with some non-evil exes. There's
Gorion, who is much the mightiest of Asura Ranas, but betrayed hundreds of Hell's original Asura inhabitants to help Asmodeus claim the plane, and gained the title Source of Lies, and rules over Hell's fifth layer, Stygia.
Of course, if you follow some of those Asmodean texts that claim that Hell, that Asmodeus was one of the earliest beings, and then Hell kind of got shaped in when Asmodeus was thrown in there, then Asmodeus would say, well, it was just kind of being formed out of stuff. There weren't necessarily a lot of other things that were down there at the time.
There's a lot of versions of the truth about.
Yep. And of course, Gorion is literally the source of lies. So
are you gonna trust the Prince of Lies or the Source of Lies when it comes
I don't know.
to...
I don't trust either of them.
What happened?
Then there's Mammon, who was basically sent with a bribe during the war against the Celestial Realms, and he got caught and killed along with the bribe, but he managed to merge with the bribe that was scattered across the plains and became like a living money thing, and he's in the vaults of Erebus and represents like greed. And then Mephistopheles, who was formed directly out of sort of hell stuff, and rules over Cana, Hell's 8th layer. And honestly, the fact that he's formed directly out of hell stuff is different than other devils and makes him closest to an imp among, not like in power level, but among types of devils.
Don't compare him to an imp. He's the creator.
My headcanon is that imps think of Mephistopheles as like the king of all, or like the, more than king of all imp kind, because they're all created directly out of hell stuff.
Well, he's the creator of infernal contracts, so...
Fair enough. And then there's Moloch, who's the general of Hell's armies and rules in Melbulge, the 6th layer of Hell. He's the Ashen Bull. Plus 4 Queens of the Night. Dolores who is the sadistic angel and loves to give pain to other people.
Ardad Lily, the serpent muse, who is extremely skilled at manipulation. That's right.
Iseth, Hell's Valkyrie, who is like kind of the queen of the Aranis. And then Mahathala, who was actually not a fallen angel, but a fallen psychopomp, who did not become a Sakiel, but instead, when she got a glimpse of the end of her own existence, instead of being like, let's go to the ethereal plane and spook people and make them real stressed and anxious, was like, maybe I can go to hell. Tis better to rule in hell than to be a psychopomp.
Then we have the Demon Lords.
Yes, there are so many Demon Lords that you can't possibly catch them all. Like, even if it was Pokemon Demon Lord version, there are theoretically so many layers of the Abyss that you wouldn't be able to catch them all. But you can catch all 12 of the Demon Lords that are in this section.
Who are some of the most prominent. Abraxas, Demon Lord of Forbidden Lore, Magic, and Snakes.
Yep.
He knows a huge number of destructive secrets.
Then there's Baphomet, also known as Baphomet, who is the Lord of the Labyrinth, and is the demon lord of labyrinths and minotaurs and all that kind of stuff. Sithvizug, the Prince of the Blasted Heath, is demon lord of disease, fungus, and parasites. There is Dagon, who is demon lord of the sea and sea monsters, who was actually kind of defected from being a Kalipoth, and the Kalipoth all hate Dagon. For that, Gogunta, the Song of the Swamp, demon lord of amphibians and boggards. Kabriri, him who gnaws, demon lord of ghouls.
And Devour and ghouls, graves, secrets kept by the dead, and cannibalism is a very big thing there.
That's true. Nurgle, the Shining Scourge, demon lord of deserts, senseless warfare in the sun, who was formerly a full Aslanti deity, but kind of fell down to just demon lord tier after losing a fight.
Pazuzu, among the most powerful of the demon lords and ancient, though his constant war with Lamashtu has hindered his ascent. He is very active in mortal affairs and enjoys possessing and corrupting those who invoke his name.
That's right. He sure does. Then after that, there is Shax, the Blood Marquis, who is the demon lord of sadistic serial killers and lies, who just loves to... He's basically like the demon lord of any of those horror movies where they trap you in a place that where one of the people is actually the murderer, and there's all sorts of weird, horrible traps that will maim and kill you.
Yep.
He's not a nice person. None of these really is.
Tree Razor, Lord of the Blasted Tarn, has been is a nascent demon lord, not a full demon lord,
That's
but
right.
is here because he is actively on Golarion within the Tanglebriar.
That's right. All 11 of the other ones are actually full demon lords. Tree Razor is, and there's like 100 or more full demon lords that could have been put in here. Tree Razor is from a much lower tier, but like he's literally in the best tier, so he might as well.
Yeah,
be
and
here.
he's also literally on Golarion, so he's.
Papa Sithvizug is also in this section too.
Yes. Zev-Gavazeb, the Glutton in the Dark, demon lord of caverns, reptiles, and troglodytes.
Mm-hmm. And then Zora, the Vampire Queen, demon lord of blood, cannibalism, and vampires, who legendarily was an Aslanti queen who did, like, Elizabeth Bathory stuff and cannibalism in a quest for eternal life.
And she got it.
Yeah.
In a manner of speaking.
Well, yeah, she was reborn as a unique vampiric succubus and then became a demon lord. So, that's Zora.
Then we have the Eldest.
That's right. The Eldest are sort of the...
Deific Fae.
Yes. They are a little different than some of the other deities because they... the other deities, you know, they have their home that are somewhere on certain planes. And the Eldest live in the first world, which kind of is very morphic. And just the Eldest make pockets of their own realms within the first world almost by... just being there in the first place, which I suppose is similar to any deity that lives in the Maelstrom in certain ways. You've got Count Ranalk, who actually, unlike the other ones, is not in the first world because of the fact
he's
that...
He's not in reality.
Yeah.
But he's still... Yes.
I mean, he's somewhere in a remote corner of the Shadow Plane where he got banished.
Yeah, he got he had a lot of... He was cast out by the Eldest and called the traitor. Then he was banished to a remote corner of the Shadow Plane. He came he is the patron of exile, shadows, betrayal, and betrayal.
And then a weird thing happened with Nex, which is why even though like he may be in a remote corner of the Shadow Plane, but he's not in reality either.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what's going on, and his followers say he was the one who got betrayed. He did not the traitor.
Yeah.
And you just don't know. There are many theories about his disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the Green Mother.
Eldest of carnivorous plants, intrigue and seduction.
She is very evil and among the most like directly evil of the eldest, even though like you might not think like, oh, the Green Mother, that sounds like it's not that bad, but it is that bad. And she will devour you with plants and get you to reveal your secrets and do whatever she wants because she's chaotic evil.
Yep.
Imbrex the twins, who are basically two giant statues that sometimes send out telepathic utterances that can create a powerful compulsion or do like mental effects all within their realm.
They have a city that sprouts out from their feet.
Yep. Absolutely. There's the Lantern King, who is a very mischievous trickster. Like there are usually a lot of pantheons have their trickster deity, but in Galarian there aren't that many who are just like, nah, this is the stereotypical trickster, and the Lantern King is one of those. God of laughter and mischief.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you know, he insists his pranks are just meant to take those down, take people down, beings down a peg who need to be taken down a peg, and good-natured fun and things like that. But you know, he definitely sometimes things go way too far and creatures die, and that's just part of the prank, man. Let him take a joke.
Absolutely. And then there's the Lost Prince, who is basically the eldest of just kind of being emo.
Loneliness, sadness, and forgotten things. He spends
Just
much of his time
sitting around brooding
in the throne room of his crumbling tower. He doesn't really he doesn't really talk much, and his emotions can leach the color out of his surroundings.
My emotions leach the color out of my surroundings. I do not want to talk much about where I'm from. I'm just so neutral.
Yes.
And then there's Mag, the eldest of Foreknowledge, Complexity, and Triplets, who is sort of a like the first among Norns, although not all Norns follow Meg, but she's got the triplet with the maiden and the mother, and that all that going on, and she looks into pools and can see all sorts of possible futures and the ripples that are between all of them, and according to her, she's trying to navigate the timelines to stop a apocalypse of some sort, but nobody knows if that's really true, and
her communications are extremely cryptic and seemingly contradictory in a way that allows her to avoid communicating any of this great knowledge of the future that she possesses.
But she can speak well with Shaika. They can understand each other, as we'll see when we get to Shaika. So there's Aang, the Wanderer, who is the eldest of seasons and wanderers and secrets, and just kind of wanders around and has these like metal gloves, and yeah, is one of the deities that most gets into seasons among all of the different deities in Pathfinder.
Ragdon, the Water Lord,
the other really evil
eldest
one.
of oceans, linorms, and spirals. Widely believed to be the progenitor of all linorms, claims to be the progenitor of all dragons.
But like chromatic and metallic dragons
do not
are pretty angry with that idea.
He's tempestuous and prideful, and if you do not show him proper respect, he will probably kill you.
Yep, and then Shaika. Shaika is kind of not one deity, but is like a timeshare of many different beings who live, but with their timeshare, it isn't like, it's June 2021, so now it's my turn, and then next after me, it's the next person's turn in July. But instead, the next turn could be in the past, and then the turn after that could be way in the future. And when you take turns, it goes out. Everything goes out of order, and because of that, Shaika is so non-linear in time that this goes back to, oh yeah, that's why Mag can communicate with Shaika more easily, because of the fact that Shaika is just kind of unstuck in time and going in all of this different order.
Shaika claims to merely watch over the timeline, but it's pretty well known that they nudge things here and there for their own goals, and trying to figure out what it would mean to understand the goals of a being like Shaika. Well, maybe Matt can do it, but
maybe. Then there are elemental lords. There are 4 elemental lords who are evil. Then there's one good one who got unimprisoned, and the other 3 good ones are trapped. So Atreya is the trapped elemental lord of fire, and is kind of trapped. So until someone frees Atreya, that's kind of it for Atreya. Erzul, the fossilized king, is the evil elemental lord of earth. A giant, evil, draconic, fossilized thing living in the planet of Earth.
Who knows who knows the truth of his nature. He generally stays deep within his plane, and doesn't often concern himself with things beyond it.
Then there is Hshurha, very hard to pronounce, Hshurha, also known as Duchess of all winds. I mean, honestly, like the could, like, for an air deity, could be part of the name. She is the evil elemental lord of air, and
she has an invisible palace that she constantly changes around so that she can trap people.
That's right.
Trap creatures in it like an endless maze.
If you thought Wonder Woman's invisible plane could be like disconcerting, think about an invisible palace.
Yes.
She's the one who right now probably has the most concerns of the evil elemental lords, because her counterpart Ranginori, who I guess recently rebranded as Zephyr's Prince and not Duke of Thunder due to Hei Fang getting mad at him or something, has been released.
Well, also it's a good time to consider rebranding yourself when you're newly freed. Freed thanks to the agents of the Pathfinder Society. Thanks, Season 8 of the Pathfinder Society campaign.
You always gotta one-up the previous season. But, yeah, he's free, kind of in a vulnerable situation, because the evil elemental lords definitely trapped the good elemental lords before, and they could do it again if they all, like, got together and were like, let's trap him again.
But he's reestablished his realm in the plane of air.
He probably wants to free his other buddies.
Yes.
They used to squabble, and the evil ones actually work together, which is, like, what you wouldn't expect, but maybe they'll be more friendly with each other now. Kelazandri is the evil elemental lord of water, who, the brackish emperor, who claims to be the offspring of a much more powerful god and a brine dragon, but you never know with all these deities. Lycia Nasa, empress of the torrent, is the imprisoned elemental lord of water. Cyrazul, the crystalline queen, is the imprisoned elemental lord of earth. And Imeri, the queen of the inferno, is the evil elemental lord of fire, who is like a giant 6-armed reptilian centaur with burning wings, who destroyed and burned away all record of her birth and true origin.
She also has the largest following of all of the elemental lords.
Yep. That is because of the fact that there are just a whole bunch of methods, and most of the fire elementals and some of the Ifrit who worship her, and that gives her a pretty big following, because a lot of the other elemental lords is like, yeah, you know, a lot of people might follow them on the elemental planes, but that doesn't mean that like everybody does. But with the Mary, it's actually pretty high percentage. Imperial
the elemental lords, we have another E.
Imperial lords. There may not be as many of those as demon lords, but there sure are a lot, and could only fit a certain number. But there were too many that were too good, so they got 4 pages. Even the demon lords didn't get 4 pages.
Well, I mean, Lords are also going to be a little more player-facing in terms of who you are going to be worshiping.
There's too many good Imperial Lords. Also,
yeah.
I mean, they're all good. Yep. Also, one of the reasons is, like, if you look, there's what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're 14, and they're 12 got into the Demon Lords. That's why the Demon Lord sections were super short, and the Imperial Lords get, like, you know, multiple paragraphs, more information about them, and that's one of the reasons why it fits in there. So there's Andaletta, Grandmother Crow, who's like kind of like that no nonsense grandma if she was a crow. That's pretty much what you get with Andaletta. She wants to protect children, but she's also going to be very stern with those who are causing problems. And there's Arche, and they represent freedom and physical beauty and sexuality. And it's really important for people to find their own expression of themselves and what they want to do and their sexuality with Arche. And this causes Arche to tell people that they shouldn't, like, lock themselves down. They should kind of let themselves experiment and decide who they are until they figure it out.
Then Ashava, the True Spark, who is a dancer a dancer and a guide whose dances guide lost spirits to their final rest.
That's right.
And her lights also guide lost wanderers back to safety. Kind of the opposite of will-o-wisps.
There's black...
In a way, which is why will-o-wisps are anathema to her, and her followers destroy them whenever they can.
There's Black Butterfly, the Silence Between, who is like Desna's shadow. It's like the shadow behind Desna, but is a separate Imperial Lord, and believes in the value of distance and space, and the gaps between things being important. Sometimes silence or sensory deprivation can help clarify things and give you time for contemplation.
Her followers include parted lovers, the isolated, the introverted, those who have sworn vows of silence or don't communicate verbally, stargazers, explorers, and the melancholy.
And she hates the dark tapestry.
Yes,
or
she
at
does.
least the evil things that are in there.
That is true.
Then there is Erythracy, the heart speaker, who loves debate, opinions, and truth. She likes debating things and learning facts and information, but only if you debate with, like, truth and not just shouting out a bunch of lies and hoping that means that other people will just listen to the lies.
Yes.
And that's sort of her deal, and she's the one who has art that's on the first spread here of Imperial Lords. Then there's Felena, the Warrior's Ring, who the ring in her name represents multiple different kinds of ring because she believes in basically being a kick-ass warrior who will go into dueling rings and win in a duel, but also jewelry and femininity. It's like you can be dressed up in an amazing jewelry and outfit and still kick everybody's ass if you are Felena or a follower of Felena.
That is true. Then there is Erez, Lady of Inscribed Wonder. She has a strong affinity for runes and understands how they can supplement and empower arcane magic. She can make a lot. She also has connections then to prophecy.
Yep. In addition to that, there is Kurata. Kurata is an Imperial Lord of for foresight, forgiveness, and peace. The open hand of harmony. Just really, really believes in peace and serenity and meditation. And is just kind of like this very peaceful, monkey-looking dude on a lotus. Then there's Pulora.
Who you can see depicted here.
Yep. She's all the way over there. She is the Shimmering Maiden. She represents constellations, hope, sickness, and the Northern Lights. And she believes that constellations can help guide you to find your way home, but that also that like goodness and inner strength can guide you, and the map in the sky must never be forgotten. It's very, very important to her.
Mm-hmm. Then there is Regathiel.
That's right.
The General of Vengeance, presiding over chivalry, duty, and vengeance. He is definitely among the most violent of the good aligned divine beings, because he really expects his followers to crusade against fiends.
No, that's right. And he has a family life that may explain that, because his dad was Dispater, that archdevil of Dis that we mentioned in the archdevil section, and his mom Feronia, like a neutral demigoddess of fire. So like neither of them was a celestial, but Regathiel managed to prove himself to the other celestials, and the rebellious son of Dispater, who's like, yeah, my dad was ruled in hell, and like, that's so, I just want to be an imperial lord and kill all the fiends. Then there's Ceralion, who is the imperial lord of monuments and magic and magical monuments, and
pretty popular in Magnemar for that reason.
That's true. Like, if you like magical monuments too, then you probably like Ceralion, because that's like pretty specific.
Yes, it is.
And if you guard over magical monuments, then you're like, Ceralion is like, you're the perfect person ever. I very specifically like people who guard magical monuments.
But followers include archaeologists, historians, bodyguards, guardians in general, sculptors, curators, and arcane spellcasters.
Especially if they guard magical monuments.
Now I said before that Regathiel was among the most, like, let's destroy evil, but Vildeus takes that to a whole nother level. Vildeus gouged out her own eyes so that she wouldn't have to look upon evil, and she's driven entirely by how much she hates evil and how much she wishes to destroy it.
She's the cardinal martyr, though. She prefers sacrifice towards dealing with things. Yeah, she just saw evil and it's like, this is the worst thing. I don't want to ever see it again. Yeah. And then she expects total commitment from her followers, who leave everything behind and sacrifice everything in their life to destroying all of evil. Then there's Ilimancha, who is also known as Harbor Wing, and is the guardian of coastlines. She's kind of like a seagull imperial lord, who, likes coastlines, does not like Pazuzu, another kind of popular in Magnemar one of these imperial lords, but also popular with merfolk and sailors. And then Zolz, or Verity, who is the imperial lord of detectives, investigation, and truth. She believes that truth and will prevail if you just keep kind of solving things and gathering clues.
I really like her depiction with, like, the wings made of parchment.
You mean the one from what was it?
Chronicle of the Righteous?
Chronicle of the Righteous.
Yeah.
Where it's, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it's the one from Chronicle of the Righteous, where she's got, like, these parchmenty wings, and
she's got this look on her. She's definitely in the middle of solving a mystery based on the look on her face. Yeah, I like that one.
Yep.
At any rate,
those are the Imperial Lords. What about the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse?
All right, now for something completely different. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
You say that it's completely different, but did you know that in the very first time in a Pathfinder campaign setting book, and this was way back when nobody knew what anything was, that the term Imperial Lord was just kind of bandied about so loosely that the four horsemen were listed as being Imperial Lords.
I did not
They
know
were like
that.
Imperial Lords, such as, and a lot of them were good, and the four horsemen. And it was then never used for that purpose again in any later book. I can't even remember which book this was. This may be the original Gods and Magic.
Yeah, probably.
Which was like a 3-5
yeah.
thing or something like that. So.
But that's not the way the terminology.
Yeah, I know, but you said it was completely different.
There we go. Today I learned something really obscure.
Archaeological fact about ancient Pathfinder.
Yep.
All right, but seriously though, they are pretty different because they hate all living things and want to destroy all. Like many of these evil deities.
Like, you can see why someone might possibly follow them.
Like, they have stuff that you could deal with. Like, Urgatoa, throw a feast. Okay, but we like feasts. Or Norgorber is like, be a politician and who's manipulative. It's like, okay, a person might worship that. Or even, like, Baphomet is like, loves playing pranks on Asmodeus, and they have a big feast about the time that Baphomet pranked Asmodeus, where they like, screw around with like Asmodean kind of people, but some of these horsemen,
you see what's like their festivals, it's like they will not celebrate until all living things have been destroyed. Yeah,
that's Zoriel, the Horseman of War.
Yeah,
literally, she had a lengthy article in the back of Rain of Winter, and it's like she has no festivals because until everyone is dead from a horrific war, she will not celebrate anything.
Yep.
And the horsemen just are so evil. There's no, like, human element to their worship. They just want to destroy everything. And that's it. They might trick you. Like, Zoriel gets some people to worship her by being like, no one will accept you after what you did in war. It was so horrific. Except Zoriel will. They can damp the pain within your heart. But they just don't, at that point, try to do anything to convince people, oh yeah, here's that fun holiday we have, even though we worship this evil deity. Like, Apollyon, the Prince of Plague, just wants to kill everyone with horrible plagues and diseases.
Yeah.
That's it. And Charon is, like, the chillest of the four horsemen, who is, like, the least likely to go around and just murder you with a horrible plague or war, and that's because he's, like, he's got his abacus, and he's just ticking over one more every year. He's like, you're gonna die.
Yep. Well,
everybody's
he
gonna
concerns
die.
himself
He's
with
very patient.
miserable, pointless deaths that are devoid of faith, mercy, or meaning.
He likes those, but he's
nihilism.
very patient. He can wait.
Yeah.
He can wait nihilistically because it's like, yeah, no matter what you do, I win. So I'm not gonna necessarily.
He does get upset when mortals try to extend their natural lifespans, though.
That makes him angry because he was being patient. He was like, how are they patient for you? Now you've made me mad. And Zoriel just wants to wage horrific wars and murder everyone through battle and war and hatred for each other. In life, she was a paladin who was excommunicated for heresy and then slaughtered her way back to power. Everyone except Charon, who's in here, is like not the original horseman of their type of horseman.
So Charon is also sitting there waiting. It's like these two will also pass.
Yep. And Tralmarixian was a mortal who destroyed an entire world before dying and becoming a daemon, so had like a pretty good pedigree. And he was part daemon tiefling, so he already had like that daemon cred, he had the right parents, I guess. And when they looked at his resume, they like the eclipse ritual that he performed that mummified everything in
every living thing in his world, and then he died of starvation.
Yep. Because of the ritual. Then that caused the previous horseman of famine, Lyotheria, to be like, this is who I want as my adjutant. Like, this is the right guy. And then Tralmarixian was like, that's fun. No. And then it ate her. But, like, she might be in there somewhere, too. And, like, just wants to create horrible famines and kill everyone like he did to his previous world. Fun horse. Friends. Then there's also Monitor, demigods, which are therefore either going to be from lawful neutral, neutral, or chaotic neutral planes, such as Barzak. Barzak is kind of the funniest of all the psychopomps.
Mm-hmm.
Is like a big bird. Somewhat looks like a big nosoi in some depictions, who keeps these secret dead roads that are used by psychopomps to go between the planes and the mortal world.
Now his job is to transport souls of those who die far from home to ensure they reach the proper destination.
Yes,
That's his job.
And to protect the dead roads and from like, because a lot of evil things want to like take over the dead roads or like get their way into it. But the thing is that Barzak just doesn't do his job.
Just wandering.
He just wanders around and just has fun, and
so the role of his followers is to go in and actually do his job for him.
That's right. They're like, oh gosh, this is an important job. Somebody's got to do this job. Barzak's not doing this job. And so that's the situation with Barzak. It's kind of hilarious. Oh, let's see. Then there's Kirkaboth, who the Waiting Void is a primordial inevitable, so a lawful kind of demigod of emptiness, entropy, and stillness. And
but he doesn't approve of destruction without a greater purpose.
Yes. And Kirkaboth understands that entropy is actually in the end, the entropy death of the universe is very lawful, even though when you hear entropy it's like, oh well, like entropy is very chaotic. Like Pathfinder 1 had entropic shield. It was literally a chaotic spell. But the way that entropy eventually ends is just like everything is completely uniform.
Mm-hmm.
When entropy has reached the entropy death. And that's what Kirkaboth knows. Then there's Monad, which is sort of the condition of all. It is not necessarily a deity, but it's like this weird conglomeration of aeons that is within and outside of the multiverse, and sometimes directs things, mostly doesn't do it. It's a weird,
not really,
strange entity.
It's more of an entity that scholars study to try to understand, rather than worship, and very few mortals are able to master the asceticism that's necessary to connect to the monad.
That's right. Then there is Mother Vulture, a blind young woman.
And the way that she often appears, but you can see her true form here on the facing page.
Yes. Her true form is this two-headed vulture creature, and she'll kill you and feast upon your remains from the death of decay, but also as a thoughtful mother representing new life. And she is a psychopomp who will judge souls that sought redemption in life, deciding whether or not you really deserve it. Then there's Narisemenik.
The crownless and the maker of kings.
Is a Protean lord, or I think that's what you call the super Proteans.
I think so.
Psychopomps are psychopomp ushers, like Mother Vulture.
Yeah, here it is. I see a Protean lord.
That's what I thought. Yeah, the Protean lord of ascendance.
Yes, his worshippers transform their bodies and try to divine the future.
That's right. There's Otelmens, primordial inevitable of machinery, math, and physics. It's all about, yes, let us set things up with math and physics and see what happens. Saylok, who rules the planar metropolis Spire's Edge in the Boneyard, is a psychopomp usher who kind of is a defense counsel in Pharasma's court rather than a judge, and argues a person's intentions are as important as the consequences of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is Valmalos.
The answering right, primordial, inevitable of ceremonies, magic, and preparation. Oh my goodness, you can imagine what the festivals to Valmalos would look like.
Probably a lot of rituals.
Yes.
And Idagix.
Many scholars believe that Valmalos is at least partially responsible for the complex material, somatic, and verbal components that are required to perform magic.
I believe it. That stuff is pretty complex. Idagix. The Protean Lord of Language Evolution, Lost Words, and Slang. Also called the Mother of Tongues, although their gender changes as they will. And just constantly changing languages and other sensory experiences from the Library of Stolen Words, where it is transcribed into books or stored in magical containers. And the last but not least of all of these demigods are the Outer Gods and Great Old Ones.
Ancient, inscrutable, cosmic beings that lurk within the dark tapestry.
That's right. If you want to find out more about these, then in the case of a lot of them, you can just kind of check your local Cthulhu books. Like Azathoth, the David Sultan, Primal Chaos.
I don't recommend having your character learn too much more about them, though, because that Lovecraftian theme of knowledge being extremely dangerous into things that should not be known is definitely present with these.
That's right. Azathoth, Hastur, Nyarlathotep, and Yog-Sothoth from this section. All of them, you can find much more information there, but there are two that are kind of Galarian specific. Nimboloth, who hunts the shores of the River of Souls, a shapeless entity known as the Empty Death.
Who's said to see through will-o-wisps.
That's right. And then Zamindor, the Living Cancer.
Born in the sewers beneath Carcosa, the alien city that is home of Hastur.
But was teleported to Galarian somehow or transported in a comic and crashed into a lake, and just kind of there in the lake being a Zamindor and wanting to conquer worlds by infecting the living with itself.
Yeah.
Yay. Its victims enact its will and seek to spread its influence until the entire world is just more Zamindor, and then it returns to Carcosa, which then absorbs the world and grows. Thanks, Zamindor. So those are the last of all the demigods.
Should we stop here before we get into the philosophies?
What do you think? Should we stop here? Or should we do the philosophies?
I think this is probably a good natural stopping point.
I think so too. All right,
so
then
let's
in that
say
case,
goodbye to YouTube.
and then we'll do our outro. Bye, YouTube.
Bye.